Joe Biden's pick is poised for a major win tonight. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson on a path here to be much closer now with what we're about to see to joining this court, which would make her the first black woman to ever sit on the highest court in the land, in America. Now, just moments ago here late in the day, the Senate Judiciary Committee went forward with the vote about advancing her to the full Senate for a vote. Now, this was effectively deadlocked, 11-11, and that means the nomination goes forward.
So here we are. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is a step closer to becoming Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and we know this is true. How do we know? The Republicans are whining. They're crying, and it's absolutely delicious.
It is confirmed, I believe she will prove to be the most extreme and the furthest left justice ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court.
Judge Jackson will coddle criminals and terrorists.
Judge Jackson is beholden to the radical left that is teaching our children that they can choose their own sex.
Let me just say for the record, sex crimes against children are not fiction.
After 4 days of hearings, I now know why the left likes her so much.
This woman is so ridiculously qualified for the Supreme Court that these hearings and this voting nonsense, it's strictly along party lines, and the Republicans are just going with, hey, she's a black woman, we will not vote for a black woman. So the Judiciary Committee is split 11-11. That means it moves forward to the Senate floor for the procedural vote, and then we get the actual full Senate vote, where we'll hear more stupid questions and stupid accusations, which I'll talk about a little more later. But as far as qualifications, she is so much more qualified than the last two people, I'm being nice, they put on the Supreme Court. It's as if you were trying to put together a basketball team. Your last two players have been high school varsity basketball players, and now you have an opportunity to get LeBron. And for some reason, half the coaches are saying, we don't want LeBron. That's how much more qualified she is. Ivy League law school, public defender, Supreme Court clerk, district judge, circuit court judge, on and on. Brett Kavanaugh's big qualification, he likes beer. He yelled that during the Senate hearings. Try yelling, I like beer, on your next job interview, and let me know how that works out. Amy Cohen, qualifications? Exactly. Moving on. She's going to be on the court, and it's making Republicans mad. I love it.
Inside the Senate Judiciary Committee room, that was the tie vote. You may recognize that room from the at times controversial questioning of the nominee. What you're looking at right now is the Senate floor live, because this is a big night for the Senate. The Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, who has the power, is setting up what will be a floor debate. Then you'll see, as Mitch McConnell and others weigh in, that folks will speak to both the process, that's procedure, and the outcome, whether or not she will join the Supreme Court.
Now, Judge Jackson may be confirmed without the tiebreaker. I'm hoping for the tiebreaker. I'll be honest, I've said this from the beginning. I want the Republicans and the Democrats in the Senate to tie, and the deciding vote to put a black woman on the Supreme Court to come from Kamala Harris, a black woman who is the vice president. That would be perfect for me, but maybe it won't go to that, because Susan Collins says that she will vote for her. Mitt Romney is saying he probably will, and Senator Murkowski is also saying she probably will. Now, when the actual vote comes, will they do it? I think only Romney is strong enough to go against the Republican Party and not do as he's told. But the other Republicans are still upset. And again, it's just delicious how angry they are. Old Ted Cruz says that if she gets on the Supreme Court, she will be the most left ever to serve. Good. Probably need that, considering the last two right-wing idiots you put on the Supreme Court. We need some radical left. They're afraid that she's going to be, teaching children they can choose their own sex. Even in the early hearing, she explained she's a Supreme Court justice. She won't be teaching children. See, that's what teachers do, not what Supreme Court justices do. They think that Supreme Court justices are teacher because Amy, the handmaiden, was a teacher. That was her qualification. Marsha Blackburn's upset because she said that Ketanji Brown Jackson can't define a woman. And you know, Marsha Blackburn knows who women are because they're the ones she always votes against. She voted against them getting equal pay. She voted against their protection in the Domestic Violence Act. She knows a woman who's getting hit and underpaid. Unbelievable. They bring in the child sex thing, which it's purely, that whole child sex ring thing is some kind of QAnon fantasy that Democrats are into child. I don't even know. It's a dog whistle. Forget it. Now, they say she's beholden to people, much like Kavanaugh is beholden to whoever paid off all those debts of his. We never did find out who paid that money, did we? Yeah, and she's the problem. Okay, listen. The fact that the Republicans can't stand her tells me how great she's going to be. Lindsey Graham, he almost deserves his own special mention because, you know, he left the hearings in a huff.
Senator Graham there said that he discovered why the left likes her so much. Of course, he put her in the position to get on the Supreme Court. He was one of the Republican votes that put her on the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit.
Lindsey Graham, he almost deserves his own special mention because, you know, he left the hearings in a huff. They like to be in a huff. Lindsey Graham voted for this woman on the Circuit Court of Appeals. I believe it was just last year, definitely in the last 2 years, which means he somehow changed his mind and suddenly she's not qualified to be a judge. That would be like giving someone a driver's license and letting them drive for 2 years, a year, let's say it's a year, and then suddenly saying, you can't drive, you're not qualified to drive. We just gave a driver's license to someone who never drove before. That's who we think is qualified to drive. It's ridiculous by any measure. Comical. And the reporter here is very nice in the way he describes it because he describes it as a circus vibe. Okay? It's a stupid, racist vibe. Now, the words stupid and racist go together easily. And the reason I say it's racist is because they don't have any real reason to disqualify her from the Supreme Court. There's no real reason. She again, eminently qualified to be on the Supreme Court. Also, and this is what racists hate the most, and this is why they don't like her, this is why they couldn't stand Barack Obama, is because there's nothing a racist hates more than a person of color who's smarter than they are. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is so much smarter than any of these senators that are trying to set up these stupid questions that it's not even a contest. Again, LeBron versus a high school player, maybe even a JV high school player. She explained why she didn't define women, because it may come up in the court and she's not going to make a decision before she hears the facts. She may have to rule on the case. Unlike, Clarence Thomas, who will not recuse himself from ruling on the January 6th insurrection, even though his wife, we now know, was involved in the January 6th insurrection, at the very least endorsed the January 6th insurrection. So, once again, Ketanji Brown Jackson just showing she's better than them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why they are so upset.
What I love about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is that she is so eminently well qualified. There's the great news that she's going to be confirmed, and that when she's on that court, she will continue to bring that beautiful high-level intellectualism and that high-level just wonderful comportment. She will be an amazing justice, and we all will be happy to see her. And I can tell you, Black women are going to be celebrating all over the country, all over the world. We're ready.
Henry Rollins, who was a great punk rock singer who has become a public speaker, once said that the average white man couldn't be black for a week. Yeah. Ketanji Brown Jackson has been a black woman all her life, okay? You want her to define a woman? Look at her. Intelligence, poise, decency that they can't imagine, and just, you name it, she has it, she's done it. It is incredible. I am so happy to see this woman. I will be so happy to see her on the Supreme Court. No, she won't be able to tilt the court, and I believe the court should be packed. And I don't mean packed at 13. I think there should be 25 Supreme Court justices so that when one dies, it doesn't tilt the entire court. So that when a Supreme Court justice dies, that we were hoping Ruth Bader Ginsburg would stay alive so they wouldn't put a handmaiden on the court who's going to try to overturn Roe v. Wade or who knows what. But with the system we have now, to watch this woman, a black woman who is brilliant, who is fair, who is not going in loaded up one way or the other in spite of the radical left and the child. Stop insulting her with this. This woman is going to be a Supreme Court justice. She's going to be a phenomenal Supreme Court justice. And there are going to be black little girls all around the world that will look at her and say, I can be a Supreme Court justice. And that is just one of the reasons I salute this woman, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I cannot wait till that becomes truth.